There are proposals before the state legislature that would do away with tipped wages and bring the minimum wage for waiters and waitresses to the prevailing wage by 2027. The One Fair Wage bill, filed in the House, would level the playing field and lead to a better income and reduce sexual harassment, according to the co-sponsors of the bill. But many in the restaurant industry want the tipping system to remain in place. Carolee McGrath sat down with Dr. Melissa Baker, Assistant Professor of Hospitality and Tourism Management at the Eisenberg School of Management at UMass, to discuss the topic.
I think I kind of want to start almost looking back, and I think one of the things that's really difficult is that a lot of the statistics that we have on why we are trying to increase that $4.35 tipped credit wage that currently exists and bring it up to the full minimum wage that Massachusetts has at $12 an hour is based on some statistics that aren't necessarily correct. And so I think that's an important question that we have to that everyone has to look at in considering whether or not this is something we want to change. And that idea is, according to some research and some older research by the IRS, about 40%, and in some cases more, of tipped income is not declared.
Correct.
So we're basing this off of, our tipped employees having a livable wage, but they're not recording all of their tips. And it's difficult because right now the law is that it puts the responsibility to declare all of your tips on the employee and the employer. But there's an incentive for the employee not to declare all of those tips. So they don't have to pay as much in taxes. And then for the employer, they also don't have to pay their responsibility of the taxes on all of those wages as well, in Social Security, Medicare, FICA taxes. And so both employees and employers have this incentive to not declare all those tips, and we're losing all of this tipped income, which is one of the largest areas of where we can't get those taxes. So it's a really confusing piece because there are arguments out there that say tipped employees aren't making a livable wage, but we don't really know what wage they're really making.
Right, and so that's one very big part of it, is that they do have an incentive not to declare everything because it's money out of their pocket as far as the taxes go. In addition to that, people who do work in restaurants, whether it's high end or just a high turnover for breakfast, I think they depend on that tip that they're going to get from a customer.
Correct.
I mean, that's a big part of what they put in their pocket every day. How do you think restaurant employees are going to feel about that?
So it's actually, again, I think that's a really interesting question, and we can sort of look at some other states and some cases where they have done this. Danny Meyer was one of the first ones in New York City that wanted to have what he called hospitality included. And so he did away with tipping in all of his restaurants. And this idea of we want to make sure that both the back of the house and the front of the house get fair wages. And there was a lot of traction when that happened a few years ago, and they have kept it. But there was a recent article that came out from Danny Meyer himself that said about 30 to 40% of their longtime front of house employees actually left.
Right, because they're going to make money, more money somewhere else.
Exactly, and so there's been a number of petitions that have actually been done by the tipped employees that have said we would make more money if we're being tipped than if we go to a full minimum wage. Washington, D.C. was pretty notorious for having one a number of years ago as well, where hundreds of thousands of employees signed on to please don't raise the minimum wage for us because we're going to actually be making less money per hour.
Right, and business owners, of course, are saying, listen, we're also going to be passing this on to the customer in the prices of whatever their favorite dish, and that's going to be a problem as well.
Absolutely, and that's what happened to Danny Meyer, is in order to raise those wages, they did have to raise a lot of their prices. And I think some customers are used to that, and then there are other individuals, they've tried it in a number of other restaurants. There were some great news stories, NPR did a number of articles on this, of restaurants that tried to do this and then said our customers, even though at the end of the day they're paying the same amount because they're adding on an 18 to 20% gratuity on their bill at the end, if we raise our prices 18 to 20%, we saw such a huge decline in our business, and people were going to our competitors because what what we're charging for the same dish was 20% more. So it's a really interesting, conversation, and it's happened across the United States, and some places have had success and other places have not.
And I can understand, the argument you want to make it equal for the back of the house and the front of the house. But as somebody who used to work as a hostess, dying to be, called in to be a waitress, I made less. And the waitresses who were doing well and were successful and were efficient and got everything that the customers wanted, they did fantastic. So there is sort of a training period, right, for the restaurant industry. Not everybody comes in as the lead waitress in a restaurant.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the best parts about the hospitality and tourism industry, in a lot of ways, it is a meritocracy. So it's based on merit. And if you start off as a host and you're doing a great job, you may end up working your way up into something where you can make more money, such as a server. And you may not get the most ideal shifts like Saturday night, but as you do really well, you will get the better sections, the better nights where you make more money, and there is fluctuation. We are a highly seasonal and weekly business. Saturdays and Fridays are busier than Mondays and Tuesdays. Exactly.
Right. So how do you instruct your students, in your program who want to go into the restaurant industry? Does this topic come up in conversation? And at some point, I'm sure there'll be, owners and managers in different establishments.
Absolutely. I teach a number of classes. I teach a service experience management course, and I teach one of our upper level food service and restaurant management electives. And we absolutely love to talk about current issues and bring in things that are happening in real life so that the students are much more prepared. And this is a conversation that we actually just had the other night in my class about tipping and what it means and how do we manage it. And I think it's always a really difficult conversation because a lot of hospitality employees and managers are working really long hours, and then after at the end of a 12 or 13, 14, 15-hour shift, we're now saying you have to go back in and audit all of your employees and make sure they're declaring 100% of what their tips are, because while the credit card tips are automatically calculated in a lot of systems, cash tips are manually entered by the employees. And so now we're asking you to do audits on top of your 15-hour day. And that's really difficult, but from an ethical standpoint, if everyone else is paying a certain proportion of the taxes for the income that they make, and these tipped employees are under declaring it, we're in an ethical standpoint that we should be doing that as well. So it is a conversation that we have with the students, but there's a lot of moving pieces to it, and the management makes it really difficult when we are allowing the employees to have incentives and the employers in a way to have incentives as well.